morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks. On Wednesday, the 27th day of September, year of our Lord 2017, welcome to the John Moore Show. Proper tip of the day. Winter is coming. I want to encourage all of you to make sure your motor vehicles, cars, trucks, motorcycles, airplanes, boats, are all ready for winter. Make sure that you're up to date on your oil changes. If you want your vehicle to last as long as possible, you want to get AMSOIL, by the way, AMSOIL lubricants, tires, batteries. Make sure the vehicle's thoroughly checked out. If you don't know how to do it, have a professional do it for you. That's your prepper tip of the day. We have patient waiting in the green room, my friend, Professor James McCanney. Professor McCanney is a credentialed astrophysicist. He has taught astrophysics at the university level, taught mathematics at the university level. He is an amateur archaeologist, accomplished IT guy, author, and radio talk show host. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, John. How is my sound today?
It sounds a little tinny on my end, but we can hear you okay.
Okay. Yeah, not in my usual best situation. So anyway,
I'm not in my usual situation either, so we'll manage here somehow. Okay. Well, Jim, I've come to realize the Donald Trump continues to play the media like a cheap violin. All this stuff about football and kneeling is distracting people from what he's really doing, such as Robert Kennedy Jr. has asked for indictments against the alleged scientist who made the studies that vaccines are safe and don't cause autism. He's asked for indictments and extradition from Europe, where this guy is hanging out right now. And that's not even in the news, is it, Jim?
Wow. That's interesting. I knew, a lot of things are going on, but and also just a commentary. What's your belief on this sports issue? Well,
it turns out the NFL rule book already mandates the players and the coach and everybody stand there during the national anthem with their helmets in their left hand. That's already mandated by the rules, subject to penalties and fines if they don't.
And then what about the right hand?
Well, what I saw, I don't recall that they were required to have the right hand over their heart. I don't recall seeing that, but if they at least stand up, that would be a good start.
Well, it's like our shows are meant to do political analysis, etc. A lot of times people criticize me for going into politics because they say they tune in to listen to science. And my comment is, you cannot understand science unless you understand politics, because and who owns science? So
That's right.
How are you going to understand science? What do you think? You just read a textbook and that's the end of it? So my work is integrally involved with science and political aspects and, banking and who owns. So that's why I talk about it. But a football game or a baseball game has nothing to do with politics. So if you want to do that, then do it off the field.
That's right.
That's the issue. And so
I agree.
It's not a place where they're being paid to do political analysis. They're being paid, and this is the other problem I have. You have players that are making $50 million a year. If you ask any one of them how much have they given, I'm sure a lot of them do charity work off the field, but they're not giving their $50 million away.
No. Well, where the rubber meets the road is the advertisers, Jim. If the advertisers start pulling advertisements, that will stop this childish behavior very quickly. That's where the money comes from, is the advertising.
And also the owners. I heard there's been a big backlash of people canceling.
Well, that's where the owners get their money from the advertisers.
Sure. Yeah, it's a big money business.
And so two sources of there's actually three sources. Ticket sales are a minor part of revenue. The revenue comes from television and advertising.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right, and, exactly. And really, none of them need any of that. But it's about time possibly professional sports had a wake-up call monetarily.
It is. It is. They have a base of support that they're really making very angry, the NFL. And it's foolish. They're cutting their own throats, basically, and those multi-million-dollar contracts will be done away with if there's no advertising revenue.
Yeah. Anyway, a lot of things going on. Somebody just sent me a link to a video, and it's Michio. It's Tier 2, the ultimate Tier 2 scientist, running around like he's the world's leading scientist, physicist. Well, he's advertised as that, but he's really a Tier 2 scientist.
And what's he promoting now?
Well, what he's trying to promote is that they're using lasers to create rain and lightning and ground-based lasers. He makes all of these points very clear, and then at the end he says, and there's a lot of warm water, so we could expect a lot more hurricanes this year. And he refers to the Hurricane Prediction Center as, they predicted a higher than average year this year, therefore there would be more hurricanes, So he's just pumping the Tier 2 line, like Johnny Be Good. And, of course, they put him on top television shows. And he's trying to take my topic and do a 90-degree turn, what he's doing, the standard disinformation. So that shows the effect I've had at bringing my message to the public. That's the level they have to go to try and quell my message.
Jim, I was under the impression that the lasers manipulating weather were space-based, not ground-based.
Well, yeah, but see, that's what I said. He's making all of these very specific points that we're shooting from the ground, and they show a picture of this, animated laser shooting at a cloud, etc. And then he's very specific about ground-based, and that it's to cause rain, like they're doing good things with this. And, does not refer at all to really what's going on. And then says there's a lot of warm water, which it would imply that there should be a lot of hurricanes. Just covering all of the disinformation bases.
Well, he did it all done in one fell swoop, and people will believe it, right?
Yeah. Well, 90% of the people get their message from mainstream media, and they get that little shot, and that's all they're supposed to remember because Michio said so. But, they have him on Coast to Coast. He's just Mr. Tier 2, disinformation specialist, and he's been their man for a number of years, in addition to Stephen J. Hawkins, who can't communicate at all, and they have him saying things which actually contradict what he said when he could speak. But, so those are their two big mouthpieces. One guy who's, as far as I'm concerned, dead. If he's really not, I think he probably actually died. And they're just putting some, mannequin in a chair, and you're supposed to look at him and believe he's telling you great things about science or something. And then they got, of course, Bill Nye, the science nerd, who has no science background, who started by doing a kids show, and now he's supposed to be your expert, and then Michio.
He started out doing a children's show, you say?
Oh, yeah. Bill Nye, the science guy, was a kids show.
Bill Nye.
Gee whiz. Yeah, Bill Nye. Bill Nye, the science guy, started out doing a kids science show. So, like the Gee whiz, look at kids, how great science is.
Like watch Mr. Wizard, like when we were kids,
Right, or Mr. Green Jeans, whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Howdy Doody, Uncle Bob with the talking head, wooden heads.
It was Buffalo Bob, not Uncle Bob.
Oh, Buffalo Bob. It shows you
Right.
an old age.
Yeah, we're dating ourselves here, Jim. Everybody under 55 doesn't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim, what direction you want to go from here?
Well, okay. Puerto Rico. Two things. Isn't it strange that the hurricane that destroyed Puerto Rico's name was Maria? Now, West Side Story, if you wanted to pick one word out of the English vocabulary and Spanish vocabulary that would typify Puerto Rico, it would be the word Maria.
That's right.
And
West Side Story.
right. Yeah, and I mean since for time immemorial. And so isn't it strange that the hurricane that destroyed Puerto Rico was called Maria? Secondly, it was out of order. The L hurricane was supposed to come next, but they jumped over it to get to Maria. Now we have Hurricane Lee, which just started, so they skipped the order of naming the hurricanes. Yeah. And now we have Hurricane Lee out there, which I don't know what it's going to do or whatever. These are all manipulated storms. We actually did have a little bit of solar activity that would be germane to hurricane development, but this is way after the fact, after Irma, after Harvey, after Jose, and Hurricane Lee, whatever that's supposed to do now. But the next thing I want to talk about is the fact that in those islands, we have no record of what's going on. And it opens up the possibility, as we saw in Haiti, in retrospect, to remember Clinton's got all this money to go in and for doing benefit to Haiti. They kept all the money. They didn't do anything, and they were rounding up kids and putting them on boats and basically kidnapping kids. And so this is, I would say, the same thing is going on in Puerto Rico, and there's no record of it. There's nobody talking about this.
Well, I truly hope that's not happening, and if it is, there'll be somebody that will stop it and document it, or both. One that needs to happen.
Yeah. But anyway, it's an extremely vulnerable situation, and there's nobody there protecting these people. You have CNN run an article this morning, who's going to help Puerto Rico? That's a week after the damage had been done. These islands are on their own, and Puerto Rico, of course, is the most populous. San Juan, I don't know if people know this, but San Juan, Puerto Rico is the most high density population area in the world. Even more than, yeah. If you look at a spike on a map, the density of people in San Juan, Puerto Rico is the highest of any place in the world. And that's just because the people are living on top of each other. I mean, it's just,
right.
And there's no housing. I mean, it's really, I just talked to a woman who was on the last flight out of Puerto Rico before the hurricane. She said she was really scared. She was there visiting. But she said Old San Juan, most of the shops were closed. It's an economic disaster. They're previously, before the hurricane, were really hurting. I was there a couple of years ago, and you could tell that, they told you if you stop at a stoplight, do not let your windows down. People would jump and reach in the window to grab whatever they could grab. That's the desperation level. More in the San Juan area than out on the island, but that hurricane, I was in 1975, I was in Puerto Rico in September in a hurricane. I was actually, living in a house up in the mountains there, or it had rented a place up in the mountains to do some work. And the hurricane came 90 miles offshore, and the wind lasted for a couple of days, and there was a lot of rain, of course, and that was really destructive. But the eye of the hurricane went offshore, and there was but people rebuilt and recovered. But this storm, is different. It just destroyed everything because you got the wind and the rain. These were like 180-mile-an-hour winds. So there's just nothing left there. So what are these people going to do? There's no electricity, no way to keep food. There's no supply of food. These people have less than nothing.
Yeah, well, and no insurance typically, and it's a mess. And of course, there was a news article yesterday on drugs that half the adults in this country don't know that Puerto Rico is part of the United States, and Puerto Ricans are American citizens.
Yeah, well, you have other islands there completely destroyed, and as I said before, Hurricane Irma came in north and took out the northern Antilles Islands, the Virgin Islands, and then Hurricane Maria came in from the south and cleared out the other Caribbean islands, and then came up and hit Puerto Rico, which was spared in Hurricane Irma. They swung Irma way north of Puerto Rico and then back down to Dominican Republic to hit there. So this one came in from the south and just came right over the island and destroyed everything. So the question is, why were they destroying the Caribbean islands? And my take on it is that this was a way of, just like Katrina in New Orleans, it was a way of population, social engineering, so to speak, so that people can come in, big money, and just like they did in Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, those are all vacation, high exclusive vacation places now. The rich people came in, just took the property and built high-end resorts there, and that's now a world-class resort area. That's what they're going to do to the Caribbean islands, and then these people who live there will be, if they're still there, just cleaning toilets and whatever else they can do.
Right. Well, it certainly is. Yeah.
That is my take on what this was all about. And of course, Florida was supposed to be the same thing. Irma was supposed to destroy Florida and Georgia. And,
hold that thought, Jim. We have a break. We have a break. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. Thank you. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 27th of September, visiting with Professor James McCanny. His website's linked on my links page at thelibertyman.com. Jim, you have not one but 2 weekly radio shows. Tell people how they can listen live and through the archives, if you would, please, sir. Hello.
Every Thursday evening. Hello. John, can you hear
me?
Go
ahead. We hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, every Thursday evening, 6 p.m. Central Time from WWCR Nashville, Tennessee, is the weekly commercial-free show. And then the that re-airs Friday night and Saturday morning, 10 p.m. Friday night, 3 a.m. Saturday morning from WTWW in Nashville. And then also the paid cast is available on the webpage, jmccsci.com.
All right. Well, what topic do you want to get to next, Jim?
I want to revisit what happened in Katrina in New Orleans, what happened in Houston, what happened in Florida. By the way, just a comment on Florida, we're getting pretty much a complete damage report now from Florida. So southern Florida, especially the West Coast, had severe damage. Of course, the Keys, but north of there, about a third of the way up Florida, the damage, there really wasn't much. So it depended on where people were. Down by Naples, there was a lot of damage. The eastern side, Miami, I have not heard of a lot of damage. Of course, there was rain, standing water, things like that. But
right.
In a lot of cases, people are back to normal. In Tampa Bay, the people were back to work the next day. There were some tornadoes, interestingly enough, that went through the Tampa Bay area, and that's typically part of a hurricane system, are the leading edge tornadoes. That's when the storm starts to short out, when it starts to make landfall, and those
right.
shorts are creating the tornadoes.
Right.
So there was some severe damage in Tampa Bay in localized areas due to tornadoes. But overall, people lost their screen around their pool, things like that. But then, a lot of cleanup, the branches down and things like that. But anyway, back to New Orleans, that was a social engineering event in which, remember, FEMA was there. They would not let the people out. And they were taking people out on buses. We don't know what happened to those people. Literally millions of people were transported out of there by FEMA, and we have no idea what happened to these people. There's never been any reckoning. What do you do with a million poor people that really they're not on, they're just living there. A lot of little kids that were not registered. And these people being hauled out of there. We don't have any record of these people at all. Same with Houston, same with Florida to a degree, but in the Caribbean islands, to a large degree, we don't have any record of what's going on with the people there. There's no accountability of people.
Well, there needs to be. Jim, we got a caller on hold here. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Jim. This is Glenn from Philadelphia.
Hi, Glenn.
Jim, you sound pretty good. John, you're kind of a bit muffled and murky, but we can hear you.
Right. I'm on the road. That's why. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to point out what I think we've seen a couple pieces of remarkable reverse psychology lately. With the NFL thing, it seems to me that those who have either duped or cajoled or forced the NFL owners and players to participate in all this political activism, in the name of political correctness and the leftism, probably knew that this would result in a debilitating backlash against professional football, which is uniquely American, and I consider it sort of an assault on the culture by roping the NFL into this morass of political, controversy. So it served two purposes. They get to advance their agenda, and they get to destroy something uniquely American.
That's right.
I'd like to hold.
Anyone else? You want to hold over through the break? Okay, hold over. We got a break. We'll be back. Yeah, hold on, Glenn.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. I've worked with men and women involved in the high-end shelters for years. With the Ozark Survival Homestead, you get things you don't get with the high-end shelters. You get a opportunity to be in the bunker, of course. You also get a home, a 60 by 90 lot. You get your storable food, your livestock share, your garden, greenhouse share, your seed bank share. One person to have everything they need, right at $25,000. For a family of three, $37,000. You really need to check this out. It's very unique. At my website, you'll see the Ozark Survival Homesteads on the left side of my homepage. Go there, read that one page, fill out the form with your name, your email address, and your telephone number, and I will forward that to the guys and gals at the Ozark Survival Homesteads. Check it out. You'll be very glad you did. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion on my show from now until August. If you mail me a postcard, you may get the opportunity to buy an energy cleaner for $70 off retail. $200 of the purchase price goes to Republic Broadcasting. We have a drawing for this promotion every other Thursday. The details are at my website. Just click on the orange sticker on the right side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. Thank you very much for listening, and hope you can get those postcards in. Have a great day.
J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 27th September. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. Lots of interesting things there. You'll find links to Professor McCanney's website, of course, on my links page, and other interesting links. Interesting free downloads, books which have expired copyrights, such as The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy, The Art of War by General Sun Tzu, a book older than the Christian Bible, and, of course, the Energy Cleaner. The Energy Cleaner is a marvelous healing device. I was at a restaurant last night talking to the manager. Her husband has some severe issues he's dealing with. Myself and Tom Berryhill talked to her for about 15 minutes, and she's probably going to get an energy cleaner to help her husband with his debilitating health issues that he's dealing with. You can also. I use mine every night. If you have sleep issues, arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, yep, it'll probably help you not getting a great night's sleep. Probably help you there also. Keep in mind, I offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. You're risking nothing. Energy Clearance $285, shipping included to American zip codes. And, of course, you need to check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads. I do take PayPal, MasterCard, and Visa, and I have a toll-free order line 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I shipped out 5 of them this morning already. 800-592-9543. Visiting with Professor James McCanney. His website's linked on my links page. And we have Glenn on hold. Let's finish up your comments here, Glenn.
Yes, son. So the first thing was the NFL. The other piece of reverse psychology was Donald Trump's coming out supporting Luther Strange versus Judge Roy Moore. I think Trump may well have favored Judge Roy Moore, but he knew that his endorsement would meet with antagonism, so it was a win-win. He gets brownie point for pretending to go along with the rhino agenda, knowing that Judge Roy Moore would win anyway. And Judge Roy Moore came out and was very magnanimous and gracious and said, don't let the fact that President Trump supported Luther Strange make you think that he doesn't support the Trump agenda. So Judge Roy Moore, is a win-win on that one. It was very good. And then two.
Okay. Go ahead.
What's that? Yeah. The one thing about that vaccine thing you mentioned at the top of the program, Trump may well have a personal familial axe to grind on that one, and may wish to see that the questioning of that stuff advance, as we kind of know. And
Robert Kennedy Jr. is a bulldog on this stuff, and he's the right man for the job.
Absolutely. And one last thing for Dr. McCanney. Dr. McCanney, last time we spoke, I mentioned that Popocatépetl was showing signs of was erupting slightly. We're seeing this more with volcanoes. We've got the Agong volcano in Bali, and the entire Ring of Fire from the western Asian Pacific all the way down to the South Sandwich Islands off the tip of South America is lit up with 4s and 5s in terms of earthquakes these days. So just throw that out to you and let you respond. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Thank you for the call, Glenn. Any response to the earthquake swarm we're seeing there, Jim?
The earthquake swarm was where? Which one was he referring to?
He was talking about South America on the Pacific coast.
Well, yeah, the cycles of these, if you look at cycles kind of like waves, the natural cycles can peak and trough, so to speak, just like waves, adding and subtracting. We're not seeing anything that's unusual, out of the norm. But here's the problem with volcanoes, earthquakes. We have very little data on what's going on underground. And so, seeing trends is one thing. Sometimes if there's activity of some kind, and then there's increased activity, people try and make associations, but it's really difficult because 99% of the factors that influence those things we don't see. So
right.
It's hard to pick one external factor and say that's the cause or whatever. But also, John, what's the date today? It's the 27th.
27th, right.
Were you aware of mass destruction on Earth on September 23rd?
It was just another day, as everybody knows, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I thought that should have an honorable mention here since we had to fend this.
Right.
Had to deal with that.
I've been through this. This wasn't as bad as the December 21st, 2012 event, but it wasn't too far behind it, was it?
No, this got a lot of press, so I hope that people are recognizing that this, was a non-event, and look at the sources.
That's right. People were making some very unwise decisions and acting out of fear and panic, and it's behind us, and we can move on.
Yeah, so anyway, let me just mention this. And when I did one of my first paid casts, it was how to recognize something as whether it's real, whether, you're getting YouTube, you're getting emails, people are being flooded with emails and with links, and then those links contain other links. And I followed some of these. They all ended up at the same place, and they had built disinformation websites around all kinds of things, topics. But the end result was that it was a huge distraction, and nothing happened. But if you look at the sources, if you get an email, who's it from? Is it some kind of authority? Is it, and John, that's why I put right on my webpage, I don't have email lists. They're easily hacked. They're easily, what would you say, phished, or that type of things. So I don't become involved. Hijacked, exactly.
Right.
So I don't become involved in any of that. And so people sometimes will say, I got an email from you or somebody saying you're saying such and such. I say, well, look on my webpage. That's my source of information because I control that. And even there, I've just seen some recent videos where they pull my voice out of interviews I've done. They didn't change things, but they didn't give me credit. And so a lot of very poor editing. So buyer beware on YouTube. I guess that's the real point.
Right. Well, Jim, I've been having the same thing happen to me. People take a show that's 5 or 6 years old, edit out everything to make it sound like it was just done yesterday, and then put it back up. It's maddening, but there's not much we can do about it.
Yeah. So anyway, but the September 23rd came and went. Everybody lived through it. In fact, I think in general it was a pretty good day for most people on the planet.
I'm sure it was. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Go ahead, Chuck. Go ahead.
The economy in the U.S. has been greatly affected by the Florida issue. I'm trying to get a feel for real estate down there, what's going on in real estate, because that's, of course, Florida, its main business is tourism and real estate. So I'm trying to get a feel for what the response is. But just at the beginning of the winter buying season, when people would be, say, choosing between Arizona and Texas, other places in the country to move and retire, as the baby boom charges into this wave of, retirement, is the Florida issue with hurricanes going to affect Florida as being a destination? And I still don't have a reading on that. It's important because that area of the country is going to be affected financially for a long period of time.
Right.
So, do you have any opinions on that, John?
Well, there is a base of knowledge there. I was shocked. One of the women in my high school class, she spent most of her adult life in Florida, and at a reunion about 4 or 5 years ago, I thought I would educate her about the rising ocean levels that are eventually going to wipe out Florida. It turned out she already knew about it. So it's fairly common knowledge down there that eventually most of Florida, if not all of it, is going to be underwater. But apparently people just don't care. They just continue to live there and buy and sell real estate as if life will go on indefinitely in the same manner it's always done. And I think that's what will happen. I think the economy in Florida will bounce back. People will rebuild just like it never happened, and it will never happen again. That's my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I have gotten direct information and just tried to research what's going on there. But yeah, that's my opinion also. But the question, will people that are trying to move there consider those as factors, whereas you don't have hurricanes in Arizona and, well, now, of course, you do in Texas, on what you would consider the retirement area of Texas down along the Gulf Coast. Will people start considering building inland farther or in the mountains or something like that?
There'll be a mixed bag. There'll be some that will go that route, but most won't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I was at Gulfport, Mississippi 3 weeks ago, and they're building $1 million homes right on the Gulf Coast again. Of course, they're up on 20-foot concrete piers, but they're still building them.
Uh-huh. Right, and the banks are there, et cetera. So, I think overall, Florida did not have that extensive damage. I guess that's safe to say, compared to what it should have been.
Right. Well, there's other opportunities for other hurricanes if they want to knock out Florida. We got Hurricane Lee coming, don't we?
Well, that's what I don't know. I can't tell you on this show what those storms are going to do or what they have planned for them. But I can tell you this, that there's no reason for any of these storms to have been there. The Hurricane Prediction Center, up to when these storms started, had nothing. There was nothing at all this hurricane season. It was blank. And all of a sudden, this flurry of activity, now they're going to be shining in the glory of neon lights because of all this man-made manipulated storm activity, claiming that they somehow predicted this. So this is, there again, pure disinformation, tier 2 science being bolstered in a world that is filled with misinformation. Even the news media, when I was watching CNN, etc., I would watch CNN to see what kind of garbage they were putting out, or the other news channels. I just saw Miss Yukaku talk about this, about warm water. Oh, there's so much warm water, that's why we're getting hurricanes. Well, Hurricane Jose was up in the North Atlantic off Nova Scotia. Where's the warm water fueling that storm?
Right.
This is just absurd.
We talked about this before. Where's the hurricanes in the Indian Ocean, the Gulf of Aden, the Red Sea? All those warm bodies of water, very warm, extremely warm.
Yeah, and not a hint of hurricanes. So absurdities.
Absolutely. Any updates on any of your projects we need to hear about, Jim?
Nothing. I'm in a kind of an organizational state here because, as you know, I had to evacuate from Florida. And so, still somewhat recovering from that. But in the next couple of days, I should have everything back up to date as far as, getting back on track with everything. But I have some other projects in the background which are coming to fruition, and I have to get back to my book, which was supposed to be out in August, early August, in fact. So a lot of things need cleaning up, so to speak. But that definitely put me out probably about a month. The other thing, John, is I'm becoming more of a social person. And so
really? Okay.
I'm actually doing things that it's forcing me to become more social. So possibly a good thing there.
Well, that's a good. I like that. You should have some social life, Jim.
Yeah, and at any rate, as I move around and I talk to people, people are fairly normal. But this is a very interesting incident. The other day, in another state I was visiting, a Midwestern state, in fact, one of the most Midwest of all Midwestern states, and the people around me, it was kind of funny because at the restaurant there were TV monitors on CNN. And of course that's the Candy Nugget News. That's,
right.
But it was interesting to see little old ladies and men and young people commenting as this news rolled by, and they were all ardent Trump supporters. So it was just interesting, just an interesting thing to see.
It would be. It would be. Well, that's what you're going to find. Once you're away from the left coast and the east coast, that's what you're going to find in the heartland is people that support Donald Trump.
Right. Yeah. You look at the county, the maps away from the population centers, and those, as I said before, those population centers were high level of cheating. So we really don't have a good read of even those high population centers, which would include Chicago, some of the Rust Belt states. My feeling is it was much more skewed than even I thought in my analysis. Right. But in fact, there were groups that came out, and I had reached through my analysis a difference of 17 million votes that were cheated votes. This other group came out with 25 million.
Really?
So, yeah. And they didn't include all the factors that I included. So interesting, but the mainstream media is seriously in trouble as far as audience. Let's just put it that way. In fact, there was one analysis where they had less listenership. This is for CNN mainstream evening news. They had less listenership than Bullwinkle reruns.
That's pretty dismal.
This was Anderson Cooper, so that's mainstream nighttime hard-hitting CNN news. Had lower listenership than, Bullwinkle.
Well, these advertisers not going to pay big bucks for people not watching. Here's our last break of this hour. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 27th of September, visiting with Professor James McCann. His website's linked to my links page. at thelibertyman.com. Got about 3 minutes here, Jim. Oh, we lost Jim. Okay, we'll get Jim back. We'll have him wrap up this hour.
Hello.
Okay, Jim, are you back?
Yeah.
Okay, we got about 3 minutes.
John, are you there?
Jim, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, John.
You're on the air.
Line drop during break there.
Gotcha. Okay.
At any rate, I'll be tomorrow night on my. Are we online? Are we on the air now?
We are. We're on there. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Tomorrow night I'll be talking more about the hurricane situation, summarizing what's been going on, and also I've been getting some interesting things happening to me. Some disinformation emails. I think the CIA is tracking closely what I'm doing. And so some very odd things going on. Let me just put it that way. And so obviously keeping an eye on my back. And but clearly when they have to bring out Mishukaku to try and liquidate my message, I imagine they're very worried about the
well, you're making some impact. You have a large and growing audience, Jim, and that does concern them because it's not so much how many people, but the kind of people that are listening to you and on your show and on my show. People that are educated and resourceful and will network with other people. That's what they're concerned about. Right.
And so the number of people who are getting the message and then understanding that what they're hearing, so if they see something on mainstream media, they immediately question it. And that's the thing that has really woken people up. They're starting to pick things apart, and I get the emails from people where they're going, here, listen to this. Look how they're saying this, or, they're starting to pick up on the innuendos and the small details. That's right.
They can't. The powers that be can't tolerate that. It threatens who they are and what they do.
Exactly. So anyway, as far as I'm concerned, I'm moving on with everything I'm doing, and a lot of good things going on in the background.
Okay. Well, as we get updates, we'll hear about them. I know. Any publication date for that book yet?
No. It's something that I want to have really, really highly polished when it goes out. It's when you see it, John, you're going to realize that this is a monumental, detailed effort. And so, yeah, I don't want even the smallest little glitch in there when it goes out.
Well, we'll just stand by and patiently and wait for it to be ready to go there.
Very, very good. So, anyway, take care, John.
Jim,
we'll talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week. Appreciate it. Okay, that's it for this hour. We'll be back next hour with Open Line. Stay tuned. Okay, good. We're back. Having some technical issues here. This is J.R. Moore, our second hour on Wednesday, the 27th of September. We have open lines this hour. Our prepper tip of the day is to get your motor vehicles ready for winter. Cars, trucks, motorcycles, airplanes, boats. Get everything ready for winter. Make sure you've got all your fluids properly squared away. Tires checked, batteries checked. And if you don't know how to do this, take it to a professional and make sure it's done properly. And you'll be very glad you did. Okay. The big news, of course, is not news at all of any consequence. The news about these overpaid football players taking a knee when the national anthem is being played. It turns out one of my listeners sent me something from the NFL rule book that compels the players to stand while the anthem is being played with their football helmet in their left hand. I don't recall specifically if they had to put their right hand over their heart or not, but regardless, they're subject to fine and discipline if they don't. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Quite frankly, I believe that this is Donald Trump playing the mass media and, quite frankly, the public like a cheap violin, which he's been doing now for the better part of 2 years since he announced he was going to run for president of the United States. And this is something that I think is brilliant because it's distracting the people from the mass media, I should say, from what he's really doing of importance, which is dismantling the Obama administration incrementally. And that's a good thing. Before we get to our first caller, I want to refresh people's memory what I said the first hour. Robert Kennedy Jr. has requested indictments and extradition from Europe, the gentleman who created the studies that allegedly say vaccines are safe and don't cause autism, which is a complete fabrication. That's the news, but that's what hardly anybody knows about. And I believe that's a good thing. Let these things move forward behind the scenes. Our first caller is Rick in Missouri. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, John. I hope that's just the first of many indictments. I've been patiently waiting to hear something about Hillary, Comey, and a bunch of others. Anyway, I tried to call in last hour, but I was late. I got stuck talking to some cloistered nuns and just couldn't get away.
I thought they didn't talk. I thought cloistered nuns didn't talk.
I was wondering if I was going to slip that past you. No, they were not speaking. I was down off Adelaide, and no, they don't talk. Well, they're allowed to talk 1 hour a day. You know how you don't have a television? It's along those lines, but much stricter. The in-laws that I have, I'm actually kind of referencing what you were talking about with the professor and about this possible land grab down in Florida and the way these things actually wind up fleshing out. My in-laws, who still live in Ferguson, have for the last several years been looking to move. They live in a what's called a century home. It's in the old historic part of Ferguson. In fact, the house next door actually faces the wrong way. That is to say, it was built, even though the houses are 100 years old, facing the wrong direction. And that is to say, the street just wasn't there when they built it. It was very odd. Very odd. Well, they could have gotten $250,000 for that thing before Michael Brown. Now they're off $100,000. They're off. So now they're down. Now they're done. So it's tough to say in the end what really happens in Puerto Rico and these other places. You know, property rates will do. I'm a little surprised they haven't bounced back a little better, but it doesn't look like they will if they ever do. Good news, Office Depot is having 30% off on printing services. So I have on my front seat that full color picture of the map from the Godfather, and I'm going to begin with that and see what they want to blow that up to about 2 feet by 3 feet. I hope I get this. I'm looking to get this whole thing finished out by Christmas, and I hope I get it done before the coastlines actually look like the pictures, or the whole thing is going to be just kind of anticlimactic. Anyway,
well, here's what you're going to find out. Here's what you're going to find out, Rick. They'll have standard poster sizes that you can order.
Yeah.
That will be fairly economical, a standard poster size. And you can also, if you choose to, get the poster mounted on foam cord, that 1/4-inch stiff foam board called foam cord.
Oh, yeah, I need that. I'm going to need, that would be very handy. I'd like that.
Right. That would be the handy thing to do, because to do it yourself using adhesive spray, if you don't do it for a living, it's difficult to get it done so there's no wrinkles in it and bubbles and so forth. People that do it for a living, they're generally going to get it right. Although I did I took a couple of posters to Office Depot, was one of those places, and from Fort Bragg's airborne posters, and they managed to really thoroughly mess them up. But usually they get it right. Usually they get it right.
Well, I don't see any problem with putting the onus on them. If they have to print it and mount it, if they mess it up, they'll probably just have to reprint, and that'll
Right.
just be kind of their bad news. So yeah, no, that's a great idea. I don't need to actually have it 2 feet by 3 feet. Whatever poster size is, I can start with that as my central poster and then just work from there. Anyway, I'll keep you apprised of how this goes. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Another fun poster to do, and this is for all you listeners out there, would be a poster with Kim Jong-un in the middle wearing one of his suits that he typically wears, and then around the edge of Kim Jong-un, 5 or 6 of the James Bond villains who all wear the identical suits that he does. You think about it. They all go shopping at the same place. Really?
That's not a bad That's not a bad idea. You know, the other thing I was asking.
Funny? Yeah.
Oh yeah, that'd be a blast. I'm redoing the office. Maybe that goes in the office. That would be good. One more thing I wanted to ask, and I was talking to Mr. Spencer about this. With all these maps that you've got up, do you not have anywhere in there the actual official Navy map?
Not posted alongside those other ones. No.
Well, I was just thinking, wouldn't that be a cool comparison? I don't know. Are you allowed to publish? There's no reason why you can't print it, is there?
Well, that's my proprietary work. So of course, I can publish it.
Oh,
I'll talk to Tim about that. We got a couple of ways to do that.
Oh, I did not realize that. All right. Well, all right. Maybe I can talk you into something. All right. Well, okay. I'll keep you posted. All right. Thanks a million.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate the call, Rich.
Sure.
Call number is 800-313-9443. All right. Yeah. Let's talk about that a little, because we always have new listeners. I got to remind myself. This is radio. Always have new listeners. What Rick was talking about with these posters has to do with the beginning point was about 2.5 years ago, almost nearly 3 years ago now, one of you listeners out there found the image on The Godfather. This is 1972, a hugely popular film. It's hard to be an American and not have seen The Godfather. So it's 1972, and the Godfather is visiting a high-level Vatican official in the Vatican. They're meeting in a room that has 20-foot ceilings, probably more than 1,000 years old. And on the walls are these murals of maps of the world. And it's clearly that those maps do not show the continents having the same coastlines they have now. So we got that image, and we posted it on our website. It was up for a couple of years. It was down. We got it back up now. Nothing had happened for about 2.5 years until this past January. Past January, one of my listeners found another image. This is what opened the floodgates. Television show titled Highway Patrol, 1957. The episode is Dead Hunter. You can find the entire episode on YouTube if you want to watch it, by the way. Dead Hunter, 1957. Broderick Crawford is a Highway Patrol homicide detective interviewing a man in a petroleum company, in his office at the petroleum company. On the wall behind Crawford is it's all black and white, by the way, about a 3-by-5 foot map of North America. And it is a Navy map. Crawford's forehead is right at about Portland, Oregon, give or take a little. And it's so close to the Navy map that I've recreated. It's scary. And it's crystal clear and sharp, which is very important, because some of these maps aren't that have been recovered. Like I said, that opened the floodgates. I don't have the list in front of me right now, but I'll mention some of these movies, hugely popular. Superman, Hunger Games, Superman Returns, A Beautiful Mind, and quite a few others. One of the TV shows, these movies and TV shows both, is NCIS. This is where it gets really interesting. The NCIS TV episode, they have a character called the he's the boss of the whole NCIS, supervisor. And in his office, which is a very nice wood-paneled office, there was a map of North America and now a gold frame. They changed the frame. Initially, it was a very plain Jane frame. Now it's a gold frame with light illuminating it. Now, this is a project for all you guys out there, because we have not yet recovered a crystal clear, sharp image of this map. The one we have, you can tell that the map doesn't have Florida on it. You can tell that. It looks like Baja California is missing as well. We need a crystal clear, sharp image of that map. So far, we haven't got it. Just the nature of the TV cameras. They focus on one thing at a distance, and they can't focus on two things at two different distances. But this map appears in the director's office of NCIS, multiple episodes. Hugely popular TV show. So we've got a span going back to 1952. The oldest image we got is from Look magazine, 1952. It's a black and white image of North America it is a Navy map. The magazine article in Look magazine is July 1952. There's an article about UFOs, and yet so they've got these little discs that look like flying saucers superimposed on the map of North America. The oldest movie we found is the Miami Story, 1954. A B-grade crime story about Miami, and they have the Navy map in there. So we don't know, how many hundreds of thousands of hours, TV shows and movies since 1954. Obviously, many. If you watch movies and TV shows, whether they're old or new, doesn't matter, keep a sharp eye out for these images. If you find one, capture it, do a screen capture, get that image to me. As a thank you, you'll get your choice of any of my 5 DVDs that I will mail to you once I get that image. So it's a fun project, keeps moving forward. I believe the list of images we've got is going to double and then triple. That's my opinion based on what I've seen so far. We've only really been at this 9 months. We're wrapping up the 9th month this month of the expanded version of this project since January of this year. It's a fun project, and I believe the operative term is predictive programming. What I tell people is, since that doctor held you upside down and smacked your bare bottom, everything you've seen, heard, tasted, or touched is part of your subconscious. Everything. It's there. Whether you're aware of it consciously or not, it's there, including all these images in these massively popular TV shows and movies going back more than 60 years. Now, going back to the Highway Patrol and Broderick Crawford, if you weren't watching TV in 1957, you would have to be probably, over 60 years old to remember that TV show was broadcast live. In 1957, there were 3 television networks. The entire population of the United States that had access to TV, and keep in mind not everybody did back then, but most families did. They had their choice of 3 TV shows: ABC, CBS, and NBC. And that was it. Highway Patrol was hugely popular. It ruled its time slot. If you went up against Highway Patrol, you're going to lose money. That was the bottom line. And that is an observation that carries over to most of these other movies. They picked the winners. Superman Returns, A Beautiful Mind, Hunger Games. Oh, yes. How hugely popular is Hunger Games? They picked the winners. Fascinating project. I'm going to talk to Tim about getting the Navy map posted there so you can use it for comparison. And we'll work on that, see if we can get that done by the end of the week. Tim just underwent amputation of his left leg this past Friday, and he's dealing with some pretty severe recovery issues, but he continues to work. It's just who Tim Spencer is. He will work even while he's recovering from a leg amputation. Okay, we got our first break coming up here shortly, and we do have open lines at 800-313-9443. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 27th of September. It was this late winter, early spring, I should say, of the year 2000 when I first heard about Planet X. Like 17 years ago, doesn't it? I had 2 friends of mine, both of them researchers, independently approached me about this. One didn't know the other was going to approach me on the topic. They both basically had the same story, essentially. And I really thought it was pretty wild, pretty crazy stuff. But I went ahead and talked to a friend of mine connected to the lettered agencies. He thought the same thing, but he knew me well enough to check it out. He gets back with me a month later. He says, John, it's real. The U.S. government's known about this since 1979. They verified the location in 1979, the Pioneer 10 space probe, and been getting ready for it ever since. Yes, it's real. That was 17 years ago. My research began immediately to figure out what this was. About 2005, I came across information about the Gulf Stream losing mass and velocity. I still don't know for sure if it's connected to the 10th planet. It may be. It may not be. It's hard to tell. Regardless of whether it is or whether it's not, the consequences of what the Gulf Stream is doing and not doing has changed everything by itself. People searching for a date. John, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? I've been hearing that for years, many, many years. Well, here's the deal. By the fall of 2005, I knew that the Gulf Stream had lost about more or less one half of its mass and velocity. Now, the scientists in 2005 were saying that possibly 15, 20 years in the future, the Gulf Stream would stop completely. They had their predictions based on the rate of ice melting at Greenland and the Antarctic. And they were making their calculations based on the reduced salinity in a predictable fashion
over the next 15 to 20 years. About the same time, I ran across a paper paid for with your tax dollars. The Department of Defense hired these two researchers and authors to research and write a paper based on two possible future scenarios. One, the Gulf Stream slowing down dramatically, and two, the Gulf Stream stopping completely, and the consequences of each. And they did that. The free download of my website. My website, of course, is thelibertyman.com. The title of the article is An Abrupt Climate Change Scenario and Its Implications for United States National Security. Real catchy title. About 20 pages or so, 22 pages. I refer to it as the scariest 20 pages you'll ever read in your life. Seriously, it is. Now, when the Gulf Stream did in fact stop, June 12, 2010, I reread that paper, knowing that, for a fact, that the Gulf Stream had stopped. Also, on my website, you can listen to the two archived radio shows from the third Friday and fourth Friday of July 2010. I'm on with Dr. Deagle, and we've got Dr. Luigiani Zangari with us as a guest. Dr. Zangari is a PhD scientist living and working in Italy. He doesn't speak great English, but he speaks okay English. You can understand what the man is saying. He works with a team of scientists Monday through Friday on nothing but the Gulf Stream. That's what they do. They study the Gulf Stream. The third Friday of July, 2010, Dr. Zangari said, "We believe the Gulf Stream has stopped. We're not sure. We need to recheck our calculations." That show on the fourth Friday, he verified that, yes, in fact, the Gulf Stream had stopped. He went on to say the following. We weren't aware of this, at least I wasn't, that the Gulf Stream used to, past tense, the Gulf Stream used to regulate the jet stream. Now, the Gulf Stream is water, the jet stream is air. Two entirely different matters, but both have a tremendous impact on our weather. I think I hear a break. We do. We have a break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. I've worked with men and women involved in the high-end shelters for years. With the Ozark Survival Homestead, you get things you don't get with the high-end shelters. You get a opportunity to be in the bunker, of course. You also get a home, a 60 by 90 lot. You get your storable food, your livestock share, your garden, greenhouse share, your seed bank share. One person to have everything they need, right at $25,000. For a family of three, $37,000. You really need to check this out. It's very unique. At my website, you'll see the Ozark Survival Homesteads on the left side of my homepage. Go there, read that one page, fill out the form with your name, your email address, and your telephone number, and I will forward that to the guys and gals at the Ozark Survival Homesteads. Check it out. You'll be very glad you did. Thank you very much.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 27th of September. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. If you ever watched the BBC production it's right in the middle of my homepage, of these three women that are married to jihadists. It's a hoot. When I first saw that, I was hoping it would be a TV series. Because I could easily see the whole thing becoming a TV series. But when you scroll down the middle of my homepage, you'll see the video there, the woman dressed up like a Muslim wife. And it's an entertaining 3 minutes. It really is a very entertaining 3 minutes. I encourage people to watch that. there's some other interesting videos there as well. And of course, my energy cleaners that I sell, I just picked up 5 from Tom last night. I shipped out 5. Picked up 10 last night, shipped out 5 this morning. And if you have arthritis pain, the energy cleaner will probably help. Back pain, joint pain, yep, probably help both of those also. Not getting a great night's sleep? Well, as my wife, Dr. Moore, says, when you sleep is when you heal. You need good sleep to heal properly. All those things, what the energy cleaner does, that's what we focus on. Keep in mind, I offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. I ship these things all over the planet, literally all over the planet. We haven't shipped any to the Antarctic yet, but otherwise, every continent has got an energy cleaner, possibly many energy cleaners. So, yes, check out the energy cleaner. It's only $285, shipping included. I do take PayPal, MasterCard, Visa, and, yes, a 30-day money-back guarantee. Don't forget that, 30-day money-back guarantee. You can place your order right there at my website at thelibertyman.com, or you can call my toll-free line 24 hours a day, 800-592-9543. I'll say again, 800-592-9543. Got a call on hold. Our call line is 800-313-9443. We have Paul in New Jersey. Good morning, Paul.
Morning, John. Hey, John, if Colin Kaepernick, if there was no football, what do you think Colin Kaepernick would be doing for a living?
Well, I don't know his bio, what his skill sets are other than tossing a football, which apparently he no longer does well enough to get a job. So most of these guys have an undergraduate degree of some kind, some of which is a bona fide, real undergraduate degree. Some of them is a make-believe thing that keeps them on the team. So I really can't comment on that one way or the other, Paul.
Yeah, well, I see sports as just totally corrupting collegiate life, and I would even argue American life. You know, there's a fella, he was an author, I read his book a while ago, on the public health. His name was Wilson Smalley. And in his book, he was talking about the history of, for a brief moment, about American schools and hygiene and along those issues. But the reality is, they first tried to get American kids to exercise through the use of German type of calisthenics, which required discipline and, gymnastic type of activities. But the American kids didn't like it. So sports like, baseball, hockey, football, basketball, they were all kind of invented for children to play. They were not invented with the intent for men to play, nor were they invented for men or adults to watch. And so
but I have to add to what you're saying here, Paul. What I've read is high school football was brought about to turn weak city boys into strong men because they weren't doing strong, vigorous work that young men were doing out in the countryside, on the farms. And left to their own designs, city boys will be soft young men and not even develop many of the traits that a strong man should have in the absence of that kind of athletic activity. But go ahead, Paul.
No, exactly. The point is the sports have snowballed totally out of control, and I really blame the fans themselves. They're ultimately responsible for this because they give away such large amounts of money to these spoiled, mostly illiterate fools. And so why should we be surprised when you go to a football game and you expect philosophy from athletes? What do you think, these kids are going to be smart? They were affirmative action advanced, or at least on college scholarships, because they can throw a ball and run fast, not think. Let's get that straight. These athletes are pretty much borderline mentally retarded. And I have just been foisted through colleges because the colleges want the money for filling up their stadiums, and so that's a form of revenue for them. It's all just a big cash cow, and it's all just promoting cultural degeneracy, and I would argue cultural Marxism by the very fact that you're taking people from college, you're taking adults, and you're having them fritter away their minds on the irrelevant, issues of a man running with a ball or throwing a ball and the statistics associated with that. It really is a form of cultural retardation, and that's why I'd love to see nothing more but an incredible mass walkout, not just on football, all sports.
Well, it's not going to happen. It's too much of our culture. You're going to see some pushback on this football thing, and eventually, when the advertisers start seeing they're losing revenue, that's when the rubber meets the road. Is when they start losing revenue. I don't believe things will change before that.
Yeah, well, I would love to see. Ideally, I'm being realistic on this, but I could see a 33% walkout of the audience.
That may be realistic. And I forwarded a YouTube video to my list just the other day of a former captain sitting on Harley Davidson talking about his being very disappointed in what's going on with these football players. It is very disappointing because it is such a big part of our culture. And at any given college university, you've got maybe 100 men involved in this activity. The rest of the students are just go out on Saturday afternoon to watch the game. And the top schools that the NFL recruits from, they get the best players who they don't care if they're literate or not. You're right. If they can run the fastest, throw the ball the best, catch the ball the best, they will be at the top schools where the NFL recruits from. And their level of literacy is not relevant at all.
Exactly, and they're advanced because of their ability to throw the ball. But my point is, it degrades the whole concept of college anyway, which is for higher intellectual learning and advancement, not for watching men run with their ballies and trying to get it over the little line. See, the whole thing is regressed.
Out of a school, if you say you got 5,000 students, you got 100 men involved in that, so it's a tiny, tiny percentage of men.
Yeah, but these 100 men are lauded over. They're given all kinds of, awards, and they're considered, how important they are, and it's because of the debasement of college culture and collegiate activity. And I just think, we ought to be realistic about it for one.
College is just dealing with reality. If you've got a Division I school, attracts students because they are a Division I school in every area. It promotes the college, makes them more attractive to other students coming in from high school. That's the nature that's just the nature of our culture and our society, and having a winning athletic teams, whether it's baseball, football, or basketball, does attract more money from the alumni, does attract more students, and it's better for everybody. There's an unfortunate side to it, and I agree with you, Paul, where many of these young men aren't getting an education. Of course, they don't have the intellectual capacity to get one anyway past high school. But they're promoted anyway to get them out there in the field, and it helps the entire school with their status, getting students, getting alumni money, and so forth. So that's just the way it works.
Right, but you could easily transfer that if people, like let's say, instead of turning from the football fans, you like the orchestra instead, and every Sunday people would go out to listen to concerts and listen to the orchestra in the college. Then musicians would be lauded, they would be advanced, and you would promote that. We can choose our destiny. And one other thing, our founders would be disgusted by this. That's part of the things I see about it.
I can't say what Thomas Jefferson would think about football, but these schools all have orchestras, and I agree it could happen, but I disagree. It would not be easy. To change the culture that's in place would not be easy.
Right, and by the way, this culture of football as the phenomenon, it's pretty new relatively to colleges. Colleges, some of them were founded by our very founders. Harvard's been around for a long time. So in the whole history of Harvard, football's only been maybe, a third of their lane.
It goes back to the 19th century. Football, as we know it, goes back to about 1905. There were rule changes around 1905 that brought about the game that's pretty close to the way we know it now.
Yeah.
We're looking at, 107 years.
Yeah. But my point is, I don't see anything benefit. And the other factor is, you have all these males who sit around on a Sunday, and they could be, I don't know, out doing activity themselves. They could be maybe reading the Constitution, studying civics. And so I think it also promotes an illiterate electorate. And our founders wanted, literate people to vote. They didn't really want illiterates voting.
Well,
sports promotes this.
You're oversimplifying a very complex matter here, Paul, really. The level of literacy in this country is dismal. We're 40th from the top in many areas. And to blame it on football is a bit simplistic. It goes back to...
I'm blaming it on, like, the way we, support the sports culture.
Reading has to be pleasurable and enjoyable, and if you've only been taught sight reading, which began in the 1950s, and is basically all we have now, most people, they don't find reading a fun or a pleasant thing. So they don't. Right? This is a top-down situation. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but literacy is nothing we should put on a pedestal. And by putting illiterate sports figures on pedestals, the appreciation for literature and reading and knowledge gets pushed aside.
Right. The fact that they're illiterate or semi-illiterate is not even talked about publicly. Very, very rarely is it talked about.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. In the football and the sports culture, like I said, it's promoting and glorifying basically a bunch of dullards who would be, if they could, be pumping gas for a living. Right? And
advertisers will promote and spend money on whatever people will watch. They don't care. If it's a symphony concert and people will watch it, they get the numbers, the advertisers will spend the money on it. If they don't, they won't. So the promotion is market-driven. We have a free market, and promotion is market-driven, and that's up to the whims and whimsies of the American public. They get to pick and choose whether they want to watch a symphony concert or an opera or NASCAR racing or football. And the advertisers go where the numbers are, and that's where the money goes.
Yeah. I'm aware of that, but nonetheless, I just think I'd love to...
I know you are, Paul, but you and I are talking to several thousand people here.
Yeah.
And I know you're a bright guy, and I know you're aware of it, but I'm not educating you. I'm educating our audience.
Yeah.
So...
yeah. Either way, one other thing, too, though, is when they're doing their little salute, that little fist they put in the air, that's a black power salute. That is a black supremacist salute. It's the equivalent of white people did a Sieg Heil Roman salute in public.
It is.
And I'm just amazed at, again, that the people don't see the significance of the racial aspect of this taking the knee. Because this has mostly been led by blacks.
It's being denied. Of course, it's there. It's part of the undertone. Of course, it is.
Yeah.
But I think that Donald Trump maybe spends 15 minutes a day on this, and the rest of his workday is taken up by dismantling the Obama administration, and that's going on quietly behind the scenes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's hope. All right, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Paul, thank you for the call. The call number is 800-313-9443. Literacy is a big deal. Our founding fathers, the men and women who helped get this country going, they understood the foundational importance of having a literate population, which we don't, quite frankly. Somewhere between 40 and 50% of the adults in this country are either illiterate or semi-illiterate. Now, illiterate means you basically can't read. Semi-illiterate means I don't have a definition here in front of me, but I'm just going to tell you what I believe semi-literate to be. You can read if you need to. If you have no choice, it won't be fun. It won't be pleasant. You'll come to a word every 8 or 10 words that you're not quite sure what it means. Consequently, you only read when you've got no choice. And then if it's anything of a technical nature or anything other than a newspapers are written at third grade level, by the way. If it's something such as the Atlantic, which has a pretty high level of writing there, they're probably written, the Atlantic is probably written at either 12th grade or sophomore in college level. It's a well-written publication. I just picked that one out because I like it. Or the New Yorker would be another good example. They're not going to read publications like that because it won't be fun. It won't be pleasant. I'll use my son-in-law as an example. He's a very bright guy, public school education. He's a great husband, great father, great provider for the family. He says, John, if I have to read, I have to be in a room by myself, complete quiet, and no distractions, and then I can read. Here's our last break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Back, ladies and gentlemen. We had a little technical difficulty there. Well, the school district doesn't start teaching phonics until the 6th grade. That's too late. What's the point? Reading is the foundation for everything else. No matter what your pursuit in life might be, reading is the foundation of everything else. And I remember when I was about 3rd grade, I got my first library card. I felt so grown up and so important that I could do something like check out, take them home, and be trusted to take care of these books and return them to the library. I just felt so grown up and so important when I could do that. So get these children a library card. Take them to the library. Make reading fun. Make it exciting. That's what needs to happen. And you'll literally get that child started on having a fun, full, productive life if they learn phonics and learn that reading can be and is fun. Seriously. If you got grandchildren, get these grandchildren started on phonics. If you're just getting out with your own children, youngsters, get them started on phonics. There's lots of ways to learn phonics these days, and you need to do this. In my opinion, it's not optional. These children, they can't read. They're literally crippled the rest of their life. Literally. Their chance of advancing in any field is severely limited. Granted, there's a possibility they could excel in some endeavor or skill set, but in the absence of learning how to read, they're greatly reducing their chances of excelling in any chosen field. So do what you got to do. Seriously. I'm sure there's many things on Amazon that would help children learn phonics, DVDs, books, whatever it takes. Get them started. Get the DVDs, get the books, whatever it takes. Get them started on phonics so these youngsters can have a fun, full, productive life and reach their full potential. You know what we want for all our children and grandchildren? To reach their full potential? I think so. That would be a great gift for any child. I doubt that these programs, these DVDs and books cost very much money. So just get out there and do it. We'll have Tim Spencer tomorrow morning, I hope, and Tom Berryhill and Don Kubley. In the meantime, get your medical supplies, your engine cleaner, your essential oils now while you can, your firearms and ammunition. Never, ever give up your guns. Have a fun, safe, productive day, and God bless America.